Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. It is a Tuesday night, so that means Preds Power Hour is back on a Tuesday. No more weekend stuff. We got football going on. It's going to be too hard. And also, I'd rather get these in the middle of the week anyway. More content for you guys on your morning commute here on a Wednesday for you all. So Preds Power is back. We still got a little ways to go for the NHL season to return, but it will be here before you know it, because everything in sports is coming back. The weather's starting to feel a little bit crisper. Bryan's in a jacket, Jeff's in a hoodie. Hockey season is going to be here before you know it. And to talk all things, sometimes Nashville Predators, not today, because there's not any Nashville news, as we talked about before we got started recording here, but we have our NHL divisional preview series continuing on here. And to do just that, Bryan Bastin of ontheforecheck.com, a very good Nashville Predators website that you should go bookmark and support if you are not already, is here. Bryan, good evening. How are you?
I'm all right. It's been a hectic last month. I thought, a few months ago, I was like, the draft's over. Like, things will chill out. I'll have some more time to deal with stuff. And no, you say something like that out loud and you pay for it every time. But we're here now, and I am getting excited. Just telling you guys, full disclosure, I was like, man, I really have not paid attention to hockey news in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And then talking about it, I was like, there wasn't anything. I didn't miss a single thing. So I feel a little bit better, but it's good because doing this, getting in the swing of things, and I can't wait. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And also here, as I put in his caption, because I didn't know which one to pick of the many places that Jeff Middleton writes at, he is goodness everywhere, because if you type in Jeff Middleton writer, you'll find all the places on Google. So Renegades of Puck.
Or you might find my dad. Or you might find my dad.
Are you Jeff Middleton the second?
I'm a junior, and my dad's a songwriter, so that would be.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What kind of music are we talking about here?
Country music.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You learn something new about Jeff Middleton every single week on this very program. Jeff, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be back. It's been too long.
Yeah. Are you musically talented at all? Did your dad try to get you into it? Or, how does that work?
He never forced me into it. Neither my mom. My mom was never like, you need to do this because your dad does it or whatever. I used to play the piano through middle school, and then I just recently picked up a guitar. So I've been learning that a little bit.
I don't want to say that this doesn't mean anything about you, Jeff, but just thinking about, you said your dad was a songwriter and stuff, but I was like, I know this kid's pretty good at sports. So I was like, I know he probably played in high school. So he wasn't a band kid. Piano makes sense. It's your parents are musicians. And I'm like, and he's a freshman at college. So that boy just bought himself an acoustic guitar.
That man got ready. He's like
sophomore year birthday present.
Yeah.
I guess it was freshman year birthday present. Yeah. I was like, I want to pick this up. I want to try it. My
Jeff
dad
at his
was
first Miami of Ohio party this fall. Maybe. Yeah.
My dad was like, don't make
this
a career. Yeah, he's like, don't. He's like, have this as a hobby. Don't make it your career. I was like, okay, I'll take that into consideration. I feel like I already got my my path figured out, quote unquote. But
yeah, and I was gonna say, I'm only 20 years before I figured out that same path and being like, yeah, I can still do this in my mid-30s. Yeah, sure.
Hey, there's no right timeline, and that's just honestly advice for everybody for the pursuit, just any and every podcast that you get that you folks listen to. I want it to be positive, and if we can have any kinds of recommendations here in terms of really anything with journalism and sports podcasting, writing, everything else, you can do it whenever. You can start. Don't feel like it's too late. Right. 52, 23, there's no right time. Just dive in. It's there's never a good time, and it's just the right time is right now. So if you're thinking about it, just dive in.
Being completely honest, and I've said this before, in public, is that 5 years ago, 6 years ago even, I really wasn't watching hockey at all. I started watching the Preds because I got on the bandwagon with the Cup. And then the next season I had a newborn. So I was, sitting in the bedroom at night, feeding all night long. So I'd sit there and just have a phone out there and, no, not much of a background. I don't have these childhood memories of hockey outside of when I lived in North Dakota and go to UND games. But just very not. Oh, and the random Stanley Cup final game I went to in Tampa. But I don't have that. And if I tell people, and this isn't disparaging myself, but it is a little. But if I can do this, I think anybody pretty much can. And it's just a matter of what you want to do and how much you enjoy it. Because if you love it, then it's easy to do.
Yeah.
And so, throw yourself out there. You don't have to start and be like, all right, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to be a writer. I don't know that I would recommend that, but just get out there and do something in your spare time. If you're a person like I was, where you would get on Twitter or message boards and, fire off like 30 different posts after a game, like, yeah, that's like 2 articles. Like I have my editor, I have Kate, she tells me all the time. She's like, you just tweeted like a 10 tweet thread. She's like, that could have been an article, Bryan. So you can do it. So, it's definitely something. But anyways, let's hope for the future for you guys, and hope for the future for these teams, although some more than others, I guess. So
Absolutely. Well, that's a nice lead in. Hey, it's like a catch-up show because we've been away for a few weeks now. So I'm glad that we're just reconvening here and reminding the good folks why Preds Power Hour works so well with Jeff, Bryan, and myself each and every week here on the Chase Thomas podcast. If you have any Preds questions for us, you can tweet at us, PodChaseThomas on Twitter. You can email us at chasethomaspodcast@gmail.com. Going forward, look out for these every single Wednesday, taping these on Tuesday nights. So look out for that each and every week at this very time. Check us out on YouTube, well over 1.3 thousand subs on the YouTube channel. So make sure you're locked in there. Full episodes, clips, shorts, all that good stuff. A lot of big shorts and TikToks and everything else coming up this fall that are literally in the chamber right now. So check out all of that. But yeah, love to hear from you guys. chasethomaspodcast@gmail.com or tweet at us, Jeff, Bryan, and myself, and we'd be happy to talk about that on this very show. Bryan, the Atlantic, that's what we're doing this week. You had a song, and the reason I'm starting with this particular team is that you said that you were going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens in song form, which speaks to Jeff Middleton, who will be the judge here as someone who comes from a musically gifted background. So I didn't know that we would have this level of judge on this very program, but now we have someone with some sort of genetic musical taste here that I very much do not have. So Bryan, the floor is yours.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going to be talking about, of course, our French Canadian neighbors to the north, the Montreal Canadiens. And I told them jokingly, didn't think that this bit was going to continue on into the show, that I would just do it in the voice of the chef from The Little Mermaid, Le Poisson. Yeah. So, and I can do one line because if I keep going, I will start doing the voice, and I don't need to do that on here. But let's talk about Montreal.
Okay.
So we're going in reverse order through the division. So we'll talk about the last place team. I think they finished 26th in the NHL. They were 31, 45, and 68 points. It was a team that they knew that they were going to be rebuilding. It's kind of weird, though, just to think about how quick the turnaround was from a Stanley Cup final appearance to nearly the bottom of the league. But I think they're a team that has embraced the fact that they're rebuilding, which is something that is respectable. That because again, some teams refuse to admit that that's what time it is, and you see what happens when that happens. So they're in a little bit of a turnaround here now. Got a couple of guys, not a huge offseason. Signed Alex Newhook, which I think I like that signing. Pretty good for what this team is now. And guys like Jeff Petrie came in the trade for Mike Hoffman and Rem Pitlick that sent them to Pittsburgh. They got Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, and Nathan Lagar, and a second round pick, which is, I as somebody who loves Rem Pitlick, Nashville's second leading Rem Pitlick lover behind Ann, that seems like a pretty good return there. I think that was more just a little bit of a salary dump or something for Pittsburgh, but they haven't done much. And so it's kind of a static team. We're pretty familiar with where they at and where they're at and what we're looking at. But the good news is they've got some really good young players. And I think, obviously we can't talk about the Canadians without starting by talking about Cole Caulfield, Short King. He's on pace to be a 40 goal scorer. And, we talk a lot before Forsberg and Duchesne had their years that, Nashville had never had a 40 goal scorer in their entire history, 25 years. And actually the Montreal Canadiens, all the good teams, even they haven't had a 40 goal scorer since 1993.
Wow.
So Cole Caulfield looks like, I didn't believe
was
it
in
either.
93?
Oh gosh, you're killing me now. Vincent Damphouse. There you
Okay.
go. Only because I had it pulled up.
There you go.
But I mean, he's played 83 games in his NHL career and he scored 48 goals, which is pretty ridiculous, over half a goal a game. I mean, just really, really impressive for a kid that I think there was a lot of hype behind him, and good hype behind him. But I think just the way he was taken in the draft and just the circumstances, I think a lot of people got that, this kid's overrated, or my favorite, he's too short to play hockey. And he's out there doing it. I mean, I think this is a guy that's going to be a centerpiece for that franchise. And they've got, Alex Newhook again. Like I said, he'll be a good guy to kind of assist in that part of the offense. Kirby Doc, who is phenomenal. I love him. I love his game, and Nick Suzuki. So I mean, there is a lot of players, young players on there that they can build a core around. I think that this year that they've kind of realized they didn't make a ton of big moves or anything. So I think they expect to continue to rebuild. I mean, they've got, centers. There's Sean Monahan, Jake Evans, Christian Dvorak. Like they're not all going to be there by the end of the season. And I think the prevailing thought is, Sean Monahan's basically trying to see what he can do, play real well, so that way he can impress other teams, because he kind of looks like one of those guys that's just going to be an inevitable trade deadline move for Montreal. So, they are a team that is Martin St. Louis, behind the bench, which is weird because like I said, the first NHL game he was on the team I was watching. You got Joel Armia, who's didn't have a great year. He's getting $3.4 million a season. So there's a lot of players that either have things to prove or young guys who are trying to prove that they belong and that they belong in the upper echelon of this team. But there's not a ton. They've got a ton of great prospects, but I don't think too many of them are going to see significant time. Goaltending, who knows? There's Montembeault, there's Smith, and there's Jake Allen. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, just given what they've had to deal with goaltender, that they just, I don't think they've got so many forwards and defenders that they just have to play, that they can't carry 3 goaltenders to start the year. And then, of course, and I'm gonna butcher his name. Is it Slavkovsky? First round pick. His rookie season wasn't great. 39 games, 4 goals, 10 points. I still think that he's going to be good. Like there was nothing that I saw it just screamed more like young guy who's getting used to it than a player who's way above his head. I think, guys like him is one of those where he's probably been so good for so long that competition, he hasn't been around competition like this, in a long time. And so I think he's going to be a better player. It just may take a little bit of time, but I think what the Canadians have is plenty of time. So they're going to be in the bottom half of the Atlantic, if not the bottom one or like the bottom 2. I just don't see them being a very good team that's going to contend for anything. But that's okay, because, sometimes you have to go through these years to get the better ones. And so I think they just stay on course and don't do anything too outrageous with, at the deadline, and they kind of stock up a little bit. I think they'll be on their way, because they've got a really good young core. So,
Jeff, thumbs up or thumbs down is your final answer on the Canadians offseason, based on what Bryan just said.
I mean, I wish there was a thumb in the middle, because I can't. I mean,
it's like the gladiator gif where it's like,
it's hard because like Bryan said, I don't think there's going to be a ton of improvement, but I also don't think that's what they want. I mean, if I'd probably go thumbs up, just because Alex Newhook is a good player. I thought that the trade with Pittsburgh was fine. And they're still young. They have guys that can be useful. I'd probably give them a thumbs up. I mean, it wasn't like crazy good, but it was fine. It was solid.
Yeah, it's another one of those teams too, where like some of the players that have left may make the team a little bit better. Guys like, I don't know, Denis Goryanov. That he won't be playing for the Canadians anymore, so they might get a little better in that
first
position.
liner, Denis Gurianov, second liner.
I'm sorry. It's just
that's my favorite meme. That's my favorite.
It's just
meme.
it's so much fun to poke you and just knowing that you're gonna go. Yeah.
Oh,
so I mean, but
it's so good.
But again, like if you're a Montreal fan, like yeah, it's rough. But I mean, considering the fact that the team again got to the Cup Finals, kind of crashed back down to earth, but the team kind of seems to be embracing the mentality that it's time to rebuild. Like, again, sometimes teams can go to the Cup Finals and not win it, and then not admit to themselves that they need to be rebuilding for 6-7 years.
Yeah,
and that's not always fun. So
I don't know who you're talking about, but we'll move on. It doesn't ring a bell, but mystery unsolved on this very program. The Detroit Red Wings, Jeff. Moving on up maybe a little bit. It wasn't that long ago that this was a roster and a situation that I think we looked around the league. Terrible GM situation. Really wouldn't commit to a long-term rebuild. It's where the Red Wings, and you see this in sports where like certain franchises and their history kind of blinds them to rebuilds and painful rebuilds. And then there's like for instance, Bryan. I want to say the Dallas Cowboys, but there are teams, big teams and big logos. Like the Red Wings logo is just iconic, and they're an iconic franchise. So I think it's just a little bit harder when teams like them and the Blackhawks and a few others accepting that they need to do a full-on teardown. But it seems like the Detroit Red Wings are moving in the right direction. But what say you on their offseason, Jeff Middleton?
I mean, I thought they had a great offseason. I think this season is very important, not just for the roster, for their young guys. They're going to need Lucas Raymond to get it back into gear. Last year, he wasn't like the world beater that everybody thought he could be after his excellent rookie season. They're going to have to see some younger guys step up. Marco Kasper could make the roster out of camp if he plays well enough. Simon Edvinsson, that'll be interesting to see what he can do. And Elmer Soderblom, those are two big old Swedish guys that can really play hockey. And they're really skilled too. Elmer Soderblom, he made a pretty big impact on the team last season when he got into games. Not just physically, but his skill for a guy his size is out of this world. And Edvinsson, he's high draft pick. He's a guy that, he's going to be an offensive driver on that blue line, but they need to just see more steps taken from him to solidify himself in an NHL lineup. But I mean, the big name is Alex DeBrincat. He was floated around Nashville, floated around
this
some
very
other
program.
teams. That's right, this very program. Like he was the talk of the town. Not that we thought anything was like really going to happen, but it was an interesting thought, kind of exercise to see whether or not he'd come to Nashville, or if he was if the rumors were true that he really just wanted to play in his hometown. But yeah, so he's going to be, a leader on that team. He's still a young guy, but he's going to have to take another step. And I think he can do that. I mean, Dylan Larkin, he's only getting better. He's been pretty consistent, for a while now. David Perron's still there. Andrew Kopp, like they have a solid lineup. Michael Rasmussen has looked better. Klim Kostin they acquired. JT Compher they paid a lot of money for. But yeah, I think they're Steve Yzerman is building, or continues to build a solid roster. But there have been questions that whether or not is Steve Yzerman really, like, is the Yzer plan going as well as people really think it is, or is it just the fact that it's Steve Yzerman and he made these great moves, and like is it a facade basically? Like is the talk around Steve Yzerman because he's Steve Yzerman and not because he's made all these insane moves. It was just like one or two of them that really kind of, put in people's mind that he's like this fantastic GM, which I think he is a really good GM. I don't think it's like, I don't think that's really it. But I think it's fair to ask, you've had, 3 seasons of Steve Yzerman or however many, and we've seen improvement, but last season they still had a losing record. They were expected to contend for a wild card spot, and they didn't do that. They finished 24th in the NHL. But yeah, I think this season is a really big one. I think they need guys to step up. I think they need 40-goal Alex to bring it back. I think they need Lucas Raymond to be Lucas Raymond again, 50, 60-point guy with strong, with better defensive numbers, because his defense, if I remember correctly, was not very good. It hasn't been very good. And I think Red Wings fans would love to see what those young guys can do. I think that would be, that would be helpful for them to kind of see what the top of their prospect pool looks like. But it would also be, you're bringing in these young guys that are, energetic, fast. They have an offensive mindset. They're trying to score. They're going to be a fun team to watch, I think. But a lot of the talk around Detroit this season and this offseason has been, 1, improving the roster, and 2, getting statistical improvements and how to get that.
I like it. The Red Wings are going to be interesting going into next year. Well, in the Red Wings thing, unless you have something else to add, Brian. Do you have
I was gonna say, like, I see what you're saying, and especially like, on this very program we've talked about, giving GMs too long of a leash. It's year 3 and it's Detroit. They weren't, in the best of places when he took over. Like, you've got guys where a GM, an NFL, you get a new GM, they go in there and they can make these decisions in the draft. And these are guys that come in and impact your team immediately. A GM comes in and, Barry Trotz, we're going to have no idea if the draft strategy was how it actually worked out for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. And so like, he hasn't, you look at it and just like, I haven't seen a ton of just like bad head scratching moves for Detroit. I mean, I don't blame them for the Nedeljkovic signing. Like, I thought he was going to be, I thought that was a great move when it happened. And I'm still not entirely convinced that he's washed now, but you got guys like Mo Sider and all them. Like, there's things there. And like, honestly, sometimes in the NHL, if they didn't make a dumb decision, that's a victory. So, I think that what they've been doing, and like, yeah, things are going a little bit slower, and the hype, because it is Steve Yzerman, which I think 100% is because he's Steve Yzerman, the hype got people, kind of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit early, which is fine. But, I don't think I would hold this against him. I mean, I'd be completely fine with letting it run for like 3 more years, unless something just terrible happens or something just obviously goes bad. I think that you don't sign a guy like that and give him the keys to this historic franchise and give him 4 years or 3 years. So, also, yeah, I forgot what I was going to say otherwise. So go ahead, Chase. Sorry.
Well, the last thing here, I think this could be fun. Thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down, Brian, on the Red Wings.
Oh, I think, like Jeff said, thumbs up. I mean, okay. The getting DeBrincat was huge. That wasn't. I thought it was going to involve a whole lot more compensation in order to get DeBrincat anywhere, and it was second round pick, and then 2 or 3 players. I think that was it. Let's see here. It was.
That's a good question. Actually, I'm not sure. Usually, I'm good with this.
Yeah, it was Kubalik, Sabrango, a first round, and a 4th round.
Forgot they traded Kubalik. That sucks. See, I loved him last year. He was good. Although I guess, Jonathan Berggren's going to be in there. Fabry's coming back healthy.
Yeah,
they got Daniel Sprong, who I love. But
yeah,
I think they'll be okay. But I like Dominic Kubalik. I like his fit there.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I like that. I mean, just from that, again, they got that signing. There was there's a lot of pressure now because we all saw what happened with Tkachuk. Which. Again, it's unrealistic to think that like that's a move that everybody can make and have those results. But DeBrincat's a young guy. One of the like Jeff has with his guy over there, Kubalik. Like sometimes I can tolerate players from Chicago, and DeBrincat was one of them. And he's one of those guys I've always liked. But again, we'll revisit the subject of free agents that I personally missed out on a few teams down as we get down here. So
there you go.
Good offseason. I like theirs
for sure. The Ottawa Senators, Bryan, a team that ownership questions for years, what was going to go on there, that's kind of hovering over them. They've just kind of felt very irrelevant in the NHL the last few years. They just are the forgotten Canadian team. I feel like everyone's got a take on so many different Canadian teams, and the ones that just get lost in the shuffle. It's like, we'll get back to Ottawa when they're sold. Like everything was just like, let's see Ottawa with new ownership, and then we'll dive back into that. It kind of gave me back some memories of the Atlanta Spirit owning the Thrashers, where it was like, just get the Spirit out of here, and then we're really talking. Then things will, and that did not go that way. Bryan, what about this particular franchise? Is it going in the right direction, and was that a fair characterization of what's going on with the Senators over the last few years?
Well, I will say this, that I cannot blame you for not knowing things about stuff going on in Ottawa 2-3 years ago. That's not you're not a dedicated hockey guy. And
remember the Uber ride?
Yes, I was gonna say though, but if you do want to go back and look, I promise you can get maybe a good hour and a half of just solid, like really good time laughing at just the one after another misfortunes and things that happened up there. So I wouldn't say, I think at this point, I think they're pretty happy if they'd be the forgotten Canadian team at this point. I think that they're next week they'll be voting to approve the sale of the Senators, like that. Which was so weird how many like weird celebrities got involved and all that other stuff. But it's a team that's not been in a good place for a while. I think 2 years ago I did a preview, and Kate kindly, politely asked me to take out the words "this team is a dumpster fire," "this organization is a dumpster fire" out of it, which I did, but the sentiment still stayed. But again, like they sent off, it's a team that they've got some great young guys, kind of like Montreal. I mean, of course, you start with the big team, Tim Stützle, which again, another guy that I was really high on because I listened to a lot of smart people who know their stuff at the draft. But I was pretty high on, and I liked what I saw of him. I mean, he's last season 39 goals. Like
so imagine, he could hit 100. He could hit 100 points next year.
Yeah, he had 90 points last year. But I mean, think about this. Like he's been in the league, 3 seasons now? 2 seasons?
3 seasons.
Like, he could have, if he would have been like, imagine him being drafted by Nashville. He could have been the franchise leader in goals for Nashville. Like just thinking about that. Like he's a guy that's got, like, I know we get excited about some of our guys, but like the guy came in and scored 39 goals, which is not an easy thing to do. Like, yeah, of course there's guys that do it every single year, but it's not something that's, a great thing. And he's going to be playing with Brady Tkachuk and Vladimir Tarasenko, and so I'm not sold on Tarasenko and him being the same guy that he used to be. I don't think Ottawa needs him to be a game changer, because I don't think Ottawa is going to be in the business of changing many games. But again, they, goaltending has not been a big thing recently, and so they've had, there was Anton Forsberg in there, but also they brought in Jonas Korpisalo, and longtime Blue Jacket, which sure. I mean, I
actually didn't mind that. I mean, he was good with LA.
He was fine. He was fine. I think I was never really huge on him, but it's it's a good stopgap. He's not a bad goaltender. Let's put it that way. Like that's not putting them in, like, it's not going to be like a huge weakness for him. But again, outside of Stützle, you've got a couple other things, and like a team that looks like they could be better. I just don't see that as I've seen a couple of places and some writers talking about how they think that they're gonna finish like top 3 in the division. And I was just like, I can't see that. But I will say they did make one other addition. I'm just going to do this kind of just as a personal shout out, but their new director of analytics, Sean Tierney, who him and I on Twitter doing Tableau stuff, like kind of got started right about the same time. And him and I would talk. And of course, like it was me asking about 80% of the questions to him. But he was an amazing guy, great guy. He was one of the people that was always reaching out to see if I needed help on something or to learn something or give me some information. I went up and worked for Sport Logic for the last, 4 seasons. And then now, Ottawa, they'd had that article come out 5 or 6 years ago about how Ottawa has been like this homegrown hotbed for like analytics experts in hockey. Micah, they had Micah McCurdy there in their backyard. They had Manny, who's I think he's working in baseball now, but he was the one who started like the first big after War on Ice, with Corsica. Just all these guys who are from that area, and Ottawa was completely. They had this philosophy of like they don't care about analytics; they're not going to even bother with it. It was really cool to see, not just because again this is a guy that I really respect and like, but two, it's like, hey, Ottawa's starting to turn the corner. You're seeing more and more NHL teams slowly start to build up their analytics departments, which again, being a nerd who lives in his mom's basement, I love that. So,
yeah, I like it. Jeff, do you go thumbs up, thumbs middle, thumbs down on the Senators?
I'd probably go like thumbs up, but not barely. I mean, I think I'm more optimistic about Joonas Korpisalo than Bryan is.
Mm-hmm.
He had a .921 save percentage in LA and a .911 save percentage in Columbus last year. So playing behind that Columbus team with that, that save percentage. I mean, I haven't looked super in depth at his, other goaltending metrics, but the last I checked, I thought they were, pretty good considering the situation he was in before he went to LA. They just re-signed Jake Sanderson to a super long deal. I thought that was okay. I mean, he's going to be really good. He is really good now. And him and Thomas Chabot and Jacob Chikrin, those three guys in a defense corps is nuts to me personally. Like having watched the Nashville Predators with Ryan Ellis, PK Subban, Roman Josi, and this Matthias Ekholm, all these guys coming through. Like I feel like I have a pretty, I have a bias towards fun defense corps, and that's definitely one of them. Yeah, I think they figured out what to do with Alex DeBrincat. I thought the return was a little bit, mediocre at best.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going into the season with that hanging over their head, and they can just go in with their young guys. And they're Tim Stützle is a phenomenal player. He's so good. He's their backbone. I think they were slightly above average this offseason.
Yeah. So I did save one player I didn't want to talk about because I wanted to ask you and get your opinion, Jeff. What is your opinion on Josh Norris?
Ooh, I do love me some Josh Norris. I'm a big, he's not a guy that's gonna like jump out at you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my gosh, he is so fun. I'm a big Josh Norris fan. I also love I think a guy that was also not mentioned that deserves to be mentioned was Shane Pinto. He's gonna be I think they're looking for a big step out of him too. If Josh Norris can come back and be the Josh Norris that like we know,
mm-hmm.
And that we've seen before, they're gonna be. I think him and Stützle together. Like I think those guys are going to be a solid,
Well, I think you're right, but I think again the question is, do you think is Josh Norris going to be back? Do you think he is that good player who scored 35 goals 2 years ago, or do you think that was a flash in the pan? Make a prediction, hot take out here.
Hot take. Let's see. That's a good one. Let's see. I think he scores 30.
That's a hell of a year.
I don't think he gets 35, but I think he'll get to 30.
Okay. All right. I'm not as high on him, but
if I'm a Sens fan, I would be content with 25 to 30 goals from him.
Yeah. Okay. It's maybe just because I have PTSD. I was gonna say I just have PTSD from players that were in the U.S. development program and stuff like that, because it seems like that's all that Nashville was going to take for a while was that and guys from the Northeast universities. So I don't know. I like his game and was pleasantly surprised by it. But I mean, looking at him, kind of looking at the metrics and other stuff, nothing nothing jumps out at me. I think for him like so much. Like I think there's things that, I mean, again, last season may have been, he was hurt, but I just he doesn't seem like a guy who is excelling in any one thing, which is not a bad thing. But there's just something that like when you watch certain guys, like there's something about their game that you're just like it grabs your attention. And again, he is a exciting player, but I think there's a handful of those guys out there, and I don't know. I'm not sure that it's going to be. I don't know if the environment's great. We'll see. I don't know. It's a gut feeling, I think, more than anything. And the more I talk about it, the more I realize that I did not have as much of an argument as Jeff did prepared for this.
Well, I think it's interesting just because he's Stützle is a center. So he's been playing center. I think he was drafted as a winger, but Stützle is going to be up there with Tkachuk and Tarasenko probably on that first line, or Tarasenko is going to be down with Norris, and Giroux. I think it will depend on Giroux and Batherson. I mean, we know what Tkachuk can bring. He's going to score his goals. He's going to get to the front. But, I don't think Claude Giroux is going to be a guy that's, scoring a bunch of goals. I think he's going to be the one that's setting it up. And if Norris can, get on that first power play unit, I think I don't know if he will be, considering they have Tarasenko there now, and Stützle's the center. But still, I mean, if he's playing on the second unit with, I would assume, Kubalik and Batherson, or one of those two guys, I could see him putting up, 10, 12 power play goals. I don't know what he put up the other year, I guess, or the year that he scored 35. I guess that would be the question. But I like his game a lot. I feel like, he's kind of sneaky skilled in certain areas. Let's see. Yeah, he scored in 2021-22. He scored 16 power play goals and 19 even strength goals. It'll be interesting. He shot. Let's see. His career shooting percentage is 18.5%. That's gonna be.
That's gonna stay the same, I'm sure, throughout his whole career.
Yeah, I'm sure. Definitely. That's what we all said about Tanner Jeannot, right? And that worked out.
Right. You mean guy traded for a first round pick, Tanner Jeannot? He must have been good.
That's right. He wasn't just traded for a first round pick. He was traded for an entire draft class.
That's right. So, Ricky Williams, Ricky Williams Jeannot.
That's right. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, the year he scored 17 was COVID year. They played 56 games. He shot 17%. He shot 15%.